Welcome back to another episode of Smart Money Moves Fresh Minds. I'm Wesley. We don't have Joe today, but I have a special guest, Derrick Dixa, with us today. Derrick, if you could just tell the viewers or the listeners a little bit about yourself, and we'll get started.
Yeah, my name's Derrick Dixa, like Wes said here. I am a senior advisor here at Black Diamond. I've been with the company for almost 3 years now. I graduated from Penn State University with a degree in integrated social sciences, and then went into the workforce at Bank of America before coming here to Black Diamond. I mostly work with retirees, pre-retirees, and people who recently experienced a life change like becoming a widow or losing a spouse. That's where my main focus is here at the firm.
Awesome, Derrick. Today we're going to dive into our Black Diamond process and really talk about financial planning in general and how we really go beyond the holistic approach. I feel like that word is kind of thrown around in our industry. We want to break down and be transparent into what we do. Financial planning can feel overwhelming. Today, Derrick's going to break down the financial process. It's really a way to see finances as a complete system rather than disconnected pieces. So we want to try to illustrate how everyone should think about their whole financial picture as one and not bits and pieces and really segmented pieces. So Derrick, we can say the Black Diamond process, but the viewers, the listeners don't know what that is. What is the Black Diamond process?
Wes, I think that you hit the nail on the head there, saying that this is a complicated process for some folks. There is a lot going on in people's financial lives as well as just their normal life. I like to compare it to a box of tools and having it organized in a way where you know where everything is, where you know where to go if you have to fix a pipe or if you have to fix a wall. You know exactly where to go to get that information. A lot of folks have an idea of where their tools are, but in a sense, they're all over the place. They have a toolbox here, they have stuff hanging on the wall here, and drawers over here, and then the catch-all drawer that everybody has.
Yeah, Derrick, I just wanted to add something there. So we can talk about, I like the analogy using tools like a project, but can you just give the listeners a quick example of, I mean, obviously if we're doing a project at home and we're trying to screw something together, we don't reach in our toolbox and pick up a hammer and try to hit the screw in. Can you give a quick example relating that to finances, something that you've seen where someone picks up a hammer to try to put a screw in?
Absolutely. So think of like if you had an emergency pop up, the water heater went out, for instance. It's kind of timely thinking about, or just looking outside and seeing how cold it is.
Oh yeah, it's freezing out there.
Yeah, I definitely wish I was a snowbird this year. But yeah, it's you have this unexpected expense come up. How do you fund it? Great if you have emergency funds, but what if you don't? Where are you pulling that money from? Is it coming out of a taxable account? Is it coming out of a retirement account? Are you taking penalties for that? Are there other avenues that you can kind of find to find the right hammer for the job? That's kind of where we come in and understand a person's whole life and all the interconnectedness in that process for them. And finding the right tool for the job is definitely something that we can help with. I think a lot of folks have an idea of what they want to do in that situation, what tool they want to use, for instance, but they might not understand the repercussions and the trade-offs that come with using that specific tool.
Yeah, I like that. And just to stop you there real quick, it's like if we're doing a project and, we pick up a tool in our toolbox, let's say if we're, hitting a little nail and we don't pick up the sledgehammer and we might break the window on our house, let's say, just for example. I mean, that's like using, just your hot water heater example. What if we, just put it on the credit card and allow that to rack up interest at, around 25, almost 28%, that's really going to start to we're going to use a sledgehammer in our financial life opposed to a smaller tool, something, a little more meticulous to fix the job and to do it the right way, really.
Depending on the situation, could you pull it out of your 401k as a home improvement loan? So there are options out there that I don't think a lot of folks understand. They see the problem, but how do you solve the problem? What tool do you use? And that's kind of where we come in.
Mm-hmm. So I guess to bring the Black Diamond process home, to tell us a little bit about that, how does the Black Diamond process look for our clients?
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier we take a holistic approach, and that is definitely a buzzword in our industry. Mm-hmm. But what does that really mean for a financial planner at Black Diamond? We do take it into 7 steps: understanding the client's personal circumstances, identifying and selecting those goals, analyzing those goals and their current course of action, And then we develop financial planning recommendations before we present them to the client, and then implement them and monitor them as they go forward. So kind of wanted to break down each of those a little bit and help our clients understand the way we go about giving these recommendations, because it's not just, hey, here's my stuff, give me my recommendations. We have to see how everything interconnects to each other and the trade-offs here and the consequences of doing something in another bucket there. So just to start, understanding the client's personal situation. What we look for is subjective and objective questioning. So subjective or qualitative questions are about their health, their family, the family circumstances. But if we look at more objective questions, like what are the age of those children? What are the ages of your family? What specifically happened to your parents that are making you concerned now about your own health? Things like that. We look at taxes, assets, liabilities. Kind of the whole gamut is what we're asking questions on to really understand the client. The whole purpose of this is to help identify and select goals. Through conversation, we try to understand the near, mid, and long-term goals. Are these reasonable goals? Are they something that you can realistically obtain? And sometimes there's tough conversations there down the line when we see all these different goals and how they're all interconnected, but are they all reasonable?
Right. And, I think of it like you can have anything you want in life, but you can't have everything.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's you have conflicting goals and a couple funding sources. You have to kind of pick and choose what's most important now, what can wait, and what can we actually obtain with our situation going forward. Through that, we then analyze the client's current course of action. So what are they currently doing? What's good about what they're doing? Where are some gaps, though? And we look at those gaps and how everything's intertwined. And as we're developing the financial recommendations, we look at assumptions, because when we make a recommendation, we have to look at the underlying assumptions and understand that, hey, if we're using an interest rate that's not accurate or an inflation rate that is not historically accurate, it's going to mess up the whole plan. And having an understanding of those assumptions early on can really ground the plan.
Right. And we also have to look at the macro picture today. What's going on with technology, what's going on with the interest rate environment. That changes everything with annuities, your risk-free rate, what are T-bills getting? And that can really change our allocation. So we have to look at someone's picture, but also the macro factors and what we can reasonably expect in the next couple of years to a decade and beyond.
Yeah, so when we're developing these financial plans, we always ground it in the goals that the client had identified, and we help them select. Any recommendation that we give is in an effort to help them accomplish those goals. So that's definitely something why we look at the interconnectedness of everything. We don't want to necessarily recommend something here where it's going to have a negative effect down the line. Like, for example, if you have a taxable brokerage account and you have a bunch of international securities in there, you're going to have a tax liability that you may not be aware of. So just having the funds in the right bucket can really make a big difference come tax time. And if we recommended having X, Y, and Z in your brokerage account and it's going to have a negative effect on the line, we're not doing our job there. We have to see how everything's kind of connected to each other and make that recommendation knowing that down the line, we're not going to have X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, one decision that we make can, make the first domino fall. And we have to look at the cascading effects of decisions we make in one place in someone's financial life and how that can affect and affect areas and other places of their life.
Absolutely. And sometimes those dominoes have already fallen. Somebody got bad advice or made a jump decision really quickly and didn't necessarily understand all the consequences that come with that decision or the trade-offs that come with that decision. So when these clients come to us, they may not even know what problems they have or what goals they are looking to achieve. And that's kind of where we help them out with our expertise, identifying some goals that they may not be aware of. For instance, I had a client that during our initial conversation, I was asking about her family. And she said, hey, I got my parents down the road from me. My kids live upstate. I said, how are your parents' health? And she said that they're in great health. They're doing really well. She expects them to live a long, healthy life and stay in their home the entire time. But my question was to her, what if something does happen to one of your parents? Is your dad going to be able to take care of your mom? Is your mom going to be able to take care of your dad? Or is it going to fall on you? And take away from your own family, your own career, and your own home life. That can really mess up somebody's own financial life when they have to take care of somebody else. So through that goal selecting conversation, we were able to identify like, hey, have a conversation at least with your parents on what would happen. And that got her to start thinking about her own situation when she starts to age. And should she think about moving closer to family? Should she have that conversation with her kids? Like, hey, if something happens to me, are you going to take care of me? Or am I going to need to look for other sources? And that's something where a long-term care plan or life insurance with a rider for long-term care can come into play. So through that conversation, we identify like, hey, there's a potential need for some care here down the line. Let's at least have a conversation and kind of address that. And that wouldn't have happened if I didn't get to know her deeply through that conversation and that goal setting process.
And with that example, would you say that that is a prime example of a reason that we have the Black Diamond process? Because you got to know your client, you got to that point to be able to ask those questions. And do you think that that's a gap in financial planning and this process? Our Black Diamond process helps fill that gap to learn more about our clients and really dig in deep so we're addressing those issues before they come.
Absolutely. I think through that initial conversation, we really get to ask the client some deeper questions and have them think on things. And through those conversations, goals come up all the time that they necessarily didn't articulate word for word, but through the conversation, we can identify like, hey, this probably is a goal for you. Just for instance, talking to families with kids, something I always ask is, do you have goals for them to go to college or go to trade school, or what are your plans for them after they go through high school? And a lot of parents have goals for their kids to fund higher education, but not necessarily an idea of how to go about it. And that's kind of where we can identify, hey, does a 529 make sense? Or, hey, does a brokerage account make sense for this? Or, hey, what's your liquid savings look like? Can we put that into a vehicle and get you what you need in a couple years for your kids' education?
All right, Derrick, thanks for joining me today. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And we'll see you next time on Smart Money News Fresh Minds. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.